Good morning. It is Sunday. It is 10:30 a.m. Close enough, it's 10:32. And that means it is time for Sunday Club, which is a weekly live stream for Ruby on Rails, where each week we take a look at some Ruby on Rails code and we build an application together. And the application is an events registration application. And eventually we want it to be able to handle people booking tickets or registering for events in groups and teams and handle all of that team admin. And that's what we do every week. Take a look at the YouTube channel, Sunday Club, for all the archives. We're going to touch on some stuff today that has definitely been touched on in the archives, so take a look through there. And there is also a Twitch channel, which you might be able to subscribe to as well, or do whatever you do on Twitch. Okay, so not a lot of follow-up. I have committed some of the stuff from last week just now, where we looked at shared examples and shared contexts in RSpec, which was super helpful, like a little refresher for me on how to get that done. Didn't quite wrap up everything I wanted to do. I sort of wanted to wrap some of those helpers up into kind of like blocks that you could pass around a bit more, but I think what's there is fine for now, and already removed a bunch of duplication from the tests that we had. So other follow-up on previous streams, I mentioned that I wanted to do a live stream with Sam, who is a Twitch streamer. He twitches every day learning Rails from the UK, and he is working on an application for basketball streams, live streams, legit live streams, like people who want to watch basketball matches on the web. And we are looking at Tuesday, so I actually don't know what date that is. Tuesday is going to be the I don't have a calendar to hand. Tuesday is going to be, grab my phone, the 5th, Tuesday the 5th of April, and it's hopefully going to be around 6 p.m. UK time. So I will remember to tweet and post around about that in advance, and then people can come and check it out. And so we've got a conversation going about what we're going to do there. So we're just going to pair, thanks to the lovely people at Tuple, however you want to pronounce it, who have sorted us out with an account so we can do some pair programming on the live stream. And that will be this Tuesday, 6 p.m. UK time. And as I said, I will tweet about it or post about it somewhere. So let's do what we want to do today. And we've got a hard out today because I've got to go. So let's jump over to our coding stuff. Great. Okay, so we are looking at something I mentioned previously, which is ViewComponent frameworks. Don't know what they're actually called. Resources, maybe. Here we go. Okay, so you can jump back through the streams to take a look at our use of ViewComponent. A bunch of the recent videos have ViewComponent stuff in them, and I'm really kind of enjoying using them. I'm enjoying how it forces us to think in terms of sort of a slightly more reacty way than we might do otherwise. I don't yet have a good sense of how to structure them in Rails. I think that's sort of something I'm figuring out as we go. But what we looked at was this idea of there are some frameworks available which have like pre-made components that you can then wrap. So libraries, I use the word framework, but libraries is the word they've used here, which I guess is probably better. So, and then we've got frameworks using ViewComponent. Okay, that makes more sense. ViewComponent extensions, and then podcasts, which we've linked to a few of these in the YouTube videos. So I think these are the ones we want to take a look at. So Primer is the one that I think we've referenced before. So let's look. Sorry, I'm just going to pour my coffee. Because I need caffeine, and I was in a hurry before making it, so I didn't get a chance. Hurry before the stream. Okay, great. So Primer is the GitHub library for ViewComponent, as I understand it. Let's skip through all three of these. This one looks like the gov.uk one. I am in the UK, so this is from my government. and it looks like they have a bunch of components as well. Gov.uk is the UK government site, but they open source loads, if not all, of the code that they do. So highly recommended if you are like a Ruby developer, Rails developer. You can go to, that's just for that repo, but I think you can go here. This is DFE Digital. This would be the Department for Education. But I think they might link to other ones. Loads of government departments from the UK have loads of cool open source code. So take a look. And in fact, they have so much open source code. They have a ViewComponent library. They've got accordion, backlink, breadcrumbs, cookie banner, details, footer, header, set text. Okay, cool. I'm just going to run through these before looking at what they are. And then this is Polaris. So what's Polaris? Bow Agency. Okay. Polaris ViewComponents. Looks like it's got a website. Oh, okay. It's like a storybook, lookbook kind of thing. Okay, cool. So it's like actions, action list, default. Oh, it's like storybook. Okay, great. More actions button. With icons and suffix. This isn't changing, so I'm not sure what's supposed to be happening here. Should this bit over here be changing? Try a button. Add product, outline button. Yep, so you can see it changing color if I zoom in slightly. But nothing changed on that action list. Something broken on that one, maybe? So plain buttons. Okay, so this is, yeah, that's just like a button that looks like a link. Button group. So then these are in a Polaris button group do. And then within that you can pass in whatever this thing needs. Okay. Oh, that is Polaris. This looks like Shopify stuff. Is Polaris the Shopify UI library? Polaris ViewComponents is an implementation of the Polaris design system using ViewComponents. So I think Polaris is the Shopify thing. I'm scrolling down to see if there's a link to it. Polaris UI. Shopify Polaris. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So this is components over here. What format do these components come in? React, CSS components. Okay, so someone has taken this UI framework library. I don't know what anything is called anymore. Framework, I guess. And then wrapped it in ViewComponents. Great. And then there's stimulus controllers for it as well. Okay, cool. So I guess you can kind of pick your own flavor here. So what are these? These are basically pre-made components that you can then use within your application. And why would you want to do that? So I think there are a couple of reasons why this is of interest to me. One is accessibility stuff. So that's often the advantage I found of using UI libraries, frameworks before, is that there is then a big community of people or a large company or whoever is kind of doing the project, making sure that the thing that's rendered is as accessible as possible. That then extends out into multiple browser support and legacy browser support. That stuff is often being worked on as well. So you sort of kind of get that for quote unquote free if you're able to kind of use that code. So let's say you might have I don't know, a button group or something like that, and there's a bug in the button group where something to do with a screen reader isn't working correctly, just picking a random made up example, then there's a potential that could get fixed in the library, a bug that you might not have even known existed, depending on the scale of your application. And then you upgrade the library and you get it fixed. So like someone else does the work to discover the bug, you then get the fix for it, and that means that your users using screen readers or whatever bug may have had, then get that upgrade like fixed for free. And again, it doesn't have to be accessibility; it could be browser based, could be anything. So that is one advantage. Gives you a consistent API that you then don't have to come up with. So there's like, you don't have to worry about what to name a clipboard copy button. It just is called clipboard copy. And so you sort of get some stuff for free. Like, just here you go. Here is how this bit works. You get new stuff. If they add new stuff to the library, you get that kind of like built in as you upgrade, or if you choose to stay in sync with it. You get the flexibility of not bothering to update this if you don't want to. You could kind of like use this as a way to get yourself going with a bunch of pre-made UI stuff, and then gradually swap out later if you wanted to. I don't know about these ones, but potentially styling you would then get for free. This goes back to the Tailwind UI stuff that we looked at. That could, like, you then maybe like, okay, I'm happy that this is how drop downs are going to look, for example. Like, fine, maybe the CSS comes with it to make it look like that. Again, you can then choose to either change its defaults or settings or config or whatever, but you could also just look to pull it out altogether and be like, right, okay, we're done with using the library. You can kind of choose how long you want to stay with it. What are some other? So I guess disadvantages of stuff I found before is if you don't keep it up to date, then you have kind of a decision to make later on whether you try and do a big version jump for some sort of UI library and all the complexity around that. You have to fill in the gaps where there isn't anything. So you might have avatar and avatar stack, for example, but you might want an avatar grid. I have no idea what you would want. But you then sort of have to you would want to do your component in the style of the two that exist. You might introduce a component that's similar, which then the library introduces. I don't know, I'm picking examples out of thin air, but these are just things you'd want to consider, I think. You might consider your own, like, it's introducing the potential for it to introduce bugs that do impact you that you then have to go and debug and find. It losing support, so it just saying, hey, we don't do this anymore. You might just run out of steam and not get support anymore, so in which case you would either need to support it yourself or transition to another library or framework or something like that. And usually that's fine because not fine, but like, it's not like it's suddenly going to explode and break. It's normally like, oh, okay, well, we now just have to make a decision about what to do. But everything you will have at that point will still continue to work. It doesn't need like their website to stay up and things like that. You already have it. Yeah, loads of stuff to consider about why you wouldn't choose a library. And we're looking at ViewComponent libraries here specifically, but these would apply to like CSS frameworks and stuff like that, I guess. Just loads of stuff to consider. And you only really find out whether you have a personal taste for a framework, I've found, by using it. This could, I didn't mention React there, but like Polaris has, for example, a bunch of React components. The same thing would be true there. Like, how much are you using of theirs versus your own and all of that fun stuff. So let's go and take a look. I mean, these milestones, so this is Primer specifically that I'm interested in. I'm interested in Primer for a couple of reasons. Oh, hello from Turkey in the chat. Hello, welcome. I hope it's a lovely day in Turkey. So we are looking at Primer here specifically, and I'm interested in Primer because I listened to Joel from GitHub talk about ViewComponent, and ViewComponent is kind of a GitHub initiative, as I understand it, and they use Primer internally, I believe. So they are sort of that's something that podcast I think was maybe from last year. So I don't know how up to date that information is, but I would expect it to then hopefully stay supported. Again, there's no guarantee of that because who knows what the priorities of a massive company would be. But at least you know you've got a lot of engineers potentially using it in production somewhere. Accessibility he mentioned several times, which I'm super keen to make sure is kind of covered. And also because if you're going to use the library, maybe there's an advantage of using the library of the people who also write the underlying project ViewComponent. And again, it's open source, so everybody writes it, but I think it's controlled by them mainly. Is ViewComponent like within the GitHub? Yeah, it's within the GitHub organization. Okay, fine. So it is a GitHub initiative. Cool. So I think Primer is the one we want to go with based on that's like 10 minutes of just rambling around like the why and the thinking behind doing any of this stuff. So this is a component lifecycle. This doesn't mean the component lifecycle like a React component, like the rendering lifecycle. It means like within this library, the journey, the life of a component being put into this frame library or removed from it. That's my understanding of what this doc is. So it's experimental, proof of concept built outside of Primer. This component exists as a proof of concept built outside of Primer, often in a GitHub application such as github.com. Alpha for preliminary usage, breaking changes expected. Bunch of stuff there. Beta. Tests is something we didn't mention previously. So you're likely to have better tests written for the components from libraries. Not necessarily better than you would write yourself, but they're done like you would hope. So you haven't had to do them. Whereas if you're writing your own stuff from scratch, you've got to do all of that every time. Okay, beta. The component meets most maturity criteria and use is encouraged for most scenarios. So that looked to be where most things are at. So it's used in a production application in multiple instances. So again, if it's on github.com, you know it's being battle tested because unless you work at a very specific list of companies, they probably have as much, if not more traffic than you do. Expectation is 3 or more instances in .com for Primer ViewComponents. Is that github.com, I guess? At least 1 or more instances for Primer React. Oh, okay, so there are React versions of all of these as well. Okay, great. So Joel mentions that on that podcast. They basically have GitHub is a dual ViewComponent React world, and they need them all to work, be good, be consistent, and be accessible, and I guess look the same. Usage guidelines and configuration documents, covers correct use cases. Design has been reviewed. Accessibility team has manually reviewed the component and any outstanding issues have been fixed. So if you use this component, the GitHub accessibility team, and therefore Microsoft's accessibility standards, I would assume, because GitHub is a Microsoft company, have been looked at. Something, again, depending on who you are or work with, the resources you have for that are probably potentially not as large as GitHub's. Performance stuff. Performance is another thing we didn't mention. Okay, cool. Stable, deprecated, and removed. Okay, so let's take a look at the actual list then. Beta, alpha, stable. Okay, we've got a combination here. Great. Okay, so they've already deprecated some stuff. Help button. Don't know what that is, but I like the sounds of it. What's a help button? With a help, often used for hidden text expanders. Yes. I don't know what help is. That's an ellipses, right? Google what that is. Help means horizontal ellipses. Okay. Okay. Haven't seen that, but that's pretty cool. I didn't know that was called a help either. Horizontal ellipses. Okay, cool. Hidden text expander. Image crop, a client-side mechanism to crop images. So presumably you can see this stuff being, oh, so you can just get the CSS as well. That's cool. Build CSS. So you get primer CSS. Okay, cool. Primer view components. That's the one we've been looking at. So do you, okay, great. This is really great. There's more here than I realized, I think. March 3rd, March 4th, loads of releases. Oh, they even have podcasts. Talking about stuff. Okay, great. Okay, I'm into this. Okay, so we're going to go with this one. And we're going to install it. So what's new? Design, build, contribute about. Oh, so contribute is where I wanted to go. And I wanted to go to the view component one. That's contributing to the contribution. I want to contribute. I want to see the. Okay, I want to go back. There's a lot here. There's a lot. We're going to get to the view component stuff. Right, I want to go to the GitHub stuff for the view component stuff. Okay, I'm totally clicking around because I want to find GitHub repo for this stuff here. This is what I'm looking for. Right, okay, great. So then we can look at what's being worked on for this repo. And I also just want to sign out of my GitHub in that. Because I have another one that's installed, so we can have that. Okay, great. So okay, so it's pretty active. Now I'm sort of assuming that in the same way, so this brings us a CSS framework as well. Okay, now we looked at Tailwind. And I said, I don't really want to have to learn an entire new API. Let's see what this is. Oh, are these just variables? Okay. No, you are getting stuff. So they're component based. So you're getting button. So this is more like, I remember Bootstrap had button. Okay, so this is a combination of button, so component based, button giving you a button style, and then MR2, which I'm assuming is margin right 2. So that's a kind of more Tailwind utility style. So here you're getting layout margin. So this is a subset of what things like Tailwind are doing. This is sort of what I think I was heading towards. So keeping names succinct. So maybe just a subset. So I wonder if this then still does the purging work, which I guess you could do yourself. Whereas Tailwind sort of has that capacity to generate huge volumes. Assuming this does the same thing. Okay, I'm liking this because I think Tailwind was a bit much for me. But if this comes with the utilities and the components, and we can still mess around with stuff, I would love that. I think this is going to get us some stuff. I hope this is going to get us some stuff for free. All right, let's do it. Let's commit to it. Let's commit ourselves wildly with reckless abandon, whatever. And so we're already on a branch, but we're gonna branch from a branch because we're not being very diligent, and so we can do install primer. Generally, I just keep everything on one really long branch and use the branch names to tell me when I've got a rebase from each stream. Okay, great. So we want to go. So primer CSS was a dependency of Primer view component. So let's go all the way back to the view components thing. Getting started. That's us. Right. There is a gem file. Let's do this. In gem file, add Primer view components. Now, normally what I would do on this stream is go and do that, but I always get stung by not reading the documentation in advance. So we're going to be good citizens and read this. Then in config application, add after the application definition, there's an engine for it. Okay. And there's an engine. Oh, there's an engine for view component. I already have view component. Do I already have the... No, okay, not by the looks of it. Okay, so there's an engine for that and an engine for Primer specifically. Optionally, to add the JavaScript behaviors, which I guess we will want because why not? Add in the head tag JavaScript include tag Primer. Okay. Or alternatively, you can install a Primer view components npm package and in your JavaScript code add Primer view components. See, I don't know where this is going because all the JavaScript stuff in Rails is moving back to non-web-based stuff. So I don't know what the new, as of 7, I haven't tried 7 yet, with all of the new moving to like ESM and I don't know. I've read the thing and I can't remember any of it. So should we be doing this or should we be doing this? I don't know. In addition to the dependencies declared in the gemsec, Primer view components it assumes the presence of Primer CSS. It doesn't treat it as a dependency. Okay, so how do you install this? So this is via npm. Okay, so this might, like, for example, keep us on webpack if Rails is moving away, for example. I have no idea if that's true, but okay. So do we want to do this one first? Before you start, Primer requires npm version 3 or above. Initialize, install Primer CSS. Okay. Here's what you need to know about how the files are structured in both Git and the published npm module. All of the SAS source files live in the source directory. When published, all of the files and source are hoisted to the package root so that you can import, say, utilities with import Primer CSS utilities index. All bundle into dependencies within Primer CSS are defined as relative imports. So everything should work fine as long as the Primer CSS directory is in one of your SAS include paths, i.e. node modules. That made some sense, I guess. Jekyll stuff. Using Primer on a static site, you can just use it from there. Okay. So Primer view components assumes the presence of Primer CSS. So let's do Primer CSS first. Okay. We haven't been using Yarn, but I don't know what the... I mean, do I have npm? If you have Yarn, do you automatically have npm? I don't know what the answer to that is. Let's try this. Yeah, I knew add was a thing. Okay, so I'm already off. We're already off off the docs. We're doing our own thing for no particular reason. Okay, so right, that was very painless. Need to upgrade Yarn. Okay, fine. We're not going to worry about that right now. Okay, so what do we have? What do we have? Just our changes. Okay, so let's commit these for now. We'll do whip work in progress, install. No, it's not Polaris. What the fuck is it called? Primer. So install Primer CSS. I'm going to write a note. So I'm going to write my commit message in advance. Don't always do this on the stream. We're in upcoming commits. we're going to be installing. Let me tell you something here. Oh, got commit, get commit. Okay, so in upcoming commits, we're going to be installing Primer ViewComponents library. The docs. No, I can't type that. Indicate. This is because I'll forget this stuff. Why we did this. The docs indicate that Primer CSS is what word did they use? That the presence of premises is assumed, so we're installing that first. Okay. I don't think we need that if the other link is basically the same. Cool. So in upcoming commits, we're going to be installing Primer ViewComponents library. The Primer? The docs indicate that the presence of Primer CSS is assumed, so we're installing that first. Cool. Okay, so that's committed. We are, I think that's it. Let's just assume that's it and go from there. Let's not check anything. What we could do is fire the app up and try and use one of those CSS classes. Time is it? 11:04. Yeah, okay. Well, we got maybe should have some time. But we'd need to know. Nah, fuck it. Let's just keep going. Let's assume that worked and not do any of our homework and check things. Okay, great. So now we want to install this thing. And then we can just like grab one of these and see what works. So in gemfile, add gemfile, Primer ViewComponents. Go do that. Again, if you're not on the live stream, you would do all of your diligence and check all of this stuff. So we're just installing that gem, goes to get a bunch of stuff. You get all of the GitHub icons for dependency by the looks of it. I don't know what Octocon does other than that. Right, in config application, add after the application engine, require ViewComponent engine. We do have that in here. So I wonder if we do this. Oh, this is going to put me out on, I'm going to go out on a ledge here. Is this the same thing? Is doing that the same as doing that? I genuinely have no idea. Ruby require in config or gem file. What does require mean in a Rails gem file? When the gem itself doesn't require any of its like lib, you need to do that either in your gem file or in some file in your project. Okay. Okay, so let's assume that's a synonym for now. So we think we've covered this by these two lines being present in the gem file. That's definitely something we're going to want to add to our commit message, I think. Okay, so let's check what we've got in our git changes. We've got gemfile.lock and our gem file. Let's stage these and then do git commit. And then we can work in progress because we know we're going to need to come back and sort this branch out. So we're going to do install. Primer ViewComponents library. Oh, like add. Install add. I guess you do bundle install, don't you? Note that the docs maybe I should link to the page that you're on here. Or is this genuinely where you go from this URL? Oh, okay. Note that the docs indicate that we need to add the following code to however, as we already have in our gem file, we followed that pattern and added the wire for primer there too. This commit assumes that adding the require in the gem file and in perform the same task. So like, because I don't think we needed to write that, but anywhere where we've sort of deviated from what the docs indicate, I sort of always want to write down why, because let's say that these aren't the same. There's some quirk of behavior between adding something in config application RB and in the gem file. That's going to be a pain in someone's ass at some point if it is a problem. And just having a paragraph that might lead a future developer to have a breadcrumb that might be like, oh, hey, what happens if I move these requires from the gem file to config application? Does that change this behavior? It's just a little breadcrumb on someone's potential debugging work that may or may not ever happen. It might just be absolutely fine. But for the sake of writing a paragraph, why not help your future self out? Because I regularly screw my future self over, so try and help them out. Optionally, no, we're gonna do this one. So we're gonna install this because we've done the CSS ones this way. We're gonna do this one. So we're gonna do yarn add this. We're gonna keep everything in yarn and in webpack for now. What we got? Combo box navigation. Okay, so this is time elements, behaviors, autocomplete element. Okay, hopefully fun stuff. And again, we can commit these. We haven't deviated here from anything, so let's just commit those. Work in progress, add. Review components to this additional package provides required by no, I think it's optionally used by ViewComponents library, which we installed in a previous commit. Cool, so just trying to put in there why we're installing that. Okay, so we've done loads of installation. Does any of this work? Blah, blah, blah. Usage. Counter component. What's a counter? Use counter to add a count to navigational buttons. What does a counter do by default? Show you a number. Okay, let's do that as the example. So we're going to do this, and we're just going to plonk that on our homepage. And it should show the number 25, right? The odds of that working. What are the odds of that working? So we've got a server. Something is running. Things are compiling. Webpacker is doing its thing. And we have a number 25. It is not styled, but it does have a class. Okay. So we're not, oh wait, did I actually do the thing, the next step of that? Okay, so we did this. But we need to, don't we need to, oh no, that's for the CSS. That's for the JavaScript stuff. Did we skip a step with the with the CSS stuff? Do we actually need to line to actually render it out? Yes, okay. So we probably need to actually put this somewhere. Okay. Right, hang on then. That's fine. That's fine. We're still going. We're still going. We're not a million miles away. So there's two places where we now get our Sass. We get in here, in no, here, here, and here. Can you, and so this stuff gets stuff from Tricks, but that's none of it comes from Tricks. That's all just styling stuff that's already there. This one, oh man, this is where my awareness of what's actually happening here to get the Sass out of this package and into the DOM. Everything should work fine as long as the primary CSS directory is in one of your Sass include paths. So are we not getting any Sass? But we are, because we get Sass from the components already. We had to do some sideloading stuff. Where does that stuff come from? Every time I have to remember this from scratch. Here we go. It comes from here. So this does a bunch of imports for these Sass files. Do I do the same thing here? Can I literally do it in a Sass file? Like this? We're at that fun stage of trying to work out how something works, where rather than actually digging around, just have a good old guess. Grab some crap from the docs and copy and paste stuff in to see what happens. Okay, so that is that breaking anything? This one definitely gets used. Let's see. That breaks anything. No, okay. So I think what I'm looking for is right, let's answer some questions first. So is any CSS already being included and I'm chasing down the wrong thing? So that's the first question to be answered. Because are we actually trying to fix something, or is it just a mismatch in what we're expecting? Script. How come we don't have any CSS files coming through? Because we do have styling around, right? Yeah, because we've got our little like box shadow here. Where's that coming from? Oh, here we go. Okay. So tricks, action, text, global. Okay, so that's import primer. Have we got anything from primer in here? This is all from our stuff. Includes. Oh, that's all from the performance library thing. Okay, so it doesn't look like it. Great. Okay, so that line is not doing anything. Okay, fine. So do we... Sort of looking to see if there is this is just doing like, can I do require? I have no idea what I'm doing. Genuinely have no idea what I'm doing. We've added a require. Webpack is doing something. Is it? Doesn't seem to have exploded in any way. Okay, but it doesn't seem to have also pulled in our styling. Okay. Oh, maybe it has. What's this? This is new stuff. Whoa. New stuff. Okay, loads of stuff. Okay, okay, amazing. So that did something. Change is good. Okay, great. Right. Now, what? What do we... Why is there no gray box around this then? Okay, so now we have this. This is counter. But we think in here... Oh, sorry, in style editor, we now have access to... when does it start? Like... Layout, box shadows, colors, flexbox, layout, typography, visibility. Okay, so that adds the basics. So do we need to add in then... Can we do like that? Or do we have to do... I actually don't know what that does. So let's see if that does that. Is that a thing? But guessing that that's even an option. I could just put a wildcard at the end and say like, hey, get everything. Oh, here we go. Great. Okay, so that's failed. Excellent. So, what did it say in the docs? Index. So, this. Pretty excited that we can even see the CSS in there. I didn't really expect that to work, so 10 steps ahead of where I thought I would be. Okay, now this stuff is back. Okay, that's good. Still got all this good fun stuff. So now if we put like H1, oh, it's actually, so if we put class H1, because I think I saw one in there, will this style it like, oh, they just put font size. This comes from typography, which comes from there. So do they have any kind of like font? I don't know the library at all, so I don't know what I'm actually looking for. Okay, so we can do color FG, what's it? Color FG danger, if we can say it. If we put that on there, does it? I just want to know that something in there can affect something on here. Okay, cool, but that is not set. Okay, great. So we're getting like a subset of what we need. So this is doing something, but not the right thing. So if we just do that, what does this do now? We're really just guessing, and I should be reading some docs or doing something more sensible. This failing? Great, okay, cool. Oh, okay, so that's an error there. Were we still getting an error previously? Was everything happy? That was the star. This one, everything works. Okay, so when published, all of the files in source are hoisted to the package root, so you can import, say, utilities. Oh, wait, it says import, say, utilities with. So that just gets me utilities. Right, okay, so I've got to do the others. What are the others? Utilities, presumably components. So what is in there? Right. Okay, that's right. I think that part there where it says, comma, say, utilities, I think I'm getting everything there. So all of source files are hoisted to the package root. So let's go take a look at this. Here. So source. So does anyone called utilities here? Okay, so I think I'm getting that. Okay, so what happens if I get... Oh, okay, great. Oh, it's actually completing it for me. Amazing. Utilities. Can I just do... Oh, but if I wanted just that, why can't I just... The primer CSS wouldn't work? Can I just do index? Does that get me everything? I think I'm dancing around being somewhere in the right area here. I just want everything. Like, I think I might be able to put these in manually because that gave me utilities, but I just want everything. Does this give me everything? It does. Look, it's changed style. I've got everything. And I've got a great box. Oh my God, we're going to have rebuilt GitHub in about 20 minutes. Don't worry about it. No big deal. Right, okay, so now we've got everything. Very fancy. Okay, let's go back a step and just work out what happened there and why we weren't getting everything before. So we installed ViewComponents, CSS, sorry, ViewComponents. We installed Primer CSS by doing this. We did it with yarn, but it doesn't matter. We did yarn add. And so that then chucked all of the stuff we needed in like our build pipeline, like in NPM, in node modules and all that stuff there. But when we then ran the page, it didn't come through. Like we weren't actually telling our code that we needed it. It was just, everything was there. We just didn't tell it that we needed it. So this line says, hey, when published, I'm not quite sure about what publish means. I guess like when you've then got the module, basically, all of the files in source are hoisted. Yeah, like in the published, so in the published version of this package, all of the files in source are hoisted to the package root, so you can import, say, utilities with this. But I didn't read this part, so what I was thinking was like, oh great, this will get me everything. And I didn't sort of realize that utilities was just a subset of the whole thing. So this is a CSS import, but because I don't know if I can then do this. So we sort of have, I think we have 2 build pipelines, or does one then go into the other one? I don't really understand what's happening. So we have webpack stuff happening with CSS here, and that is doing the CSS for our view components in here, because we put them next to our view files. So that is iterating through each file within our controllers directory. It's not doing it there, it's doing it here in import components. So that is going through each file within our components directory. Let's go take a look at this actually. And it's saying, hey, if you end in underscore component.scss, load up, because we're going to need you. So they're loaded there. And that then gets turned out into real CSS. And we also here, we do the tricks ones. Don't know whether that just does JavaScript, because we've also got the CSS stuff in. Oh no, that in here for tricks. Yeah, I don't know. Like that's awkward. Like, why do we need this if we're already doing this? Don't know. Require Rails action text, which I guess is separate to tricks. Don't know what that's doing. Can't remember. And then here we're saying like, right, go and get all of the CSS files, which will then get run through Webpack. So I then don't know if this has anything to do with this, because I think this stuff is all still Sprocket stuff. Because I think we could basically just get rid of all of this and do all of this in here. But I think what we said was, on the assumption that Webpack is going away, we could move back to a world where everything lives back in here. But I have no idea what I'm talking about with that. So, but it doesn't matter, because we now got a CSS library, which is super exciting. We have a number here, which is super exciting. And presumably what we can then start to do is, right, let's get some buttons on the page, because buttons are super exciting, aren't they? Button. Super cool buttons, super cool buttons. Give me the code where I just want a button. Default, yes. So here, it's 11:30, right, okay. I've got a hard out in the next 10 minutes or so. So let's see. Well, let's commit what we've got, because that works and it's amazing. So that can stay. That, we don't need that. And that's just me pressing enter twice, so I don't need this. Okay, got that one. So all we're really committing is this, which is all right. Git commit. And we can just say add primer CSS to this all of primer CSS. However, it is possible to load individual. What phrase did they use? It is possible to it doesn't say, just say utilities. So it is load individual parts by passing a subpath IE, and then we can actually just pass the one that they use. Didn't even need that. So again, that's just the idea of saying, hey, this is how we ended up doing it, but this is something we discovered along the way, just potentially helping your future self when you read this. Now, let's get into buttons. That's the CSS doc stuff. This is the component that wraps that CSS stuff. So now we've got loads of cool things we can play with. I want to play with buttons and I want to play with variables really quickly, just for a couple of minutes, because I've got to go in a minute. I've got to be leaving here by 12. Okay, so where does it talk about Sass variables? That's formatting guidelines. When and when not to create variables. Work in progress. Okay. Do we not have lint rules? Okay. Okay. Yes. Fine. Great. Good. Okay. These don't look finished. Okay. So if anyone feels like it, maybe we could come back and add some docs in a future stream when we're a bit more familiar with Primer. Because what we really want to do is be using a framework that looks nothing like it. Like you can adjust the CSS so it looks totally like your branding, but you get all of that good advantages that we were talking about up front, like the accessibility stuff and the it being kept up to date and getting new components and all of that cool stuff. So you get all the good stuff, but people aren't like, hey, this looks just like GitHub. Anyway, let's get back to buttons, because I was trying to look at where the guidance on Sass variables was. So that's the CSS buttons behavior. Close that one. Then this is the component. Right, so we want to find a button we've already got. Have we got any components that actually have buttons in? I don't think so. Those are pretty small at the moment. We don't really have collections of them. Okay, we've got an event list item component. Okay, here. So let's make this button for no reason. Render button, new scheme primary. Got all these good handy examples. Tooltip. Okay. Let's just try default one. So do we then get, we need to sign in, I think. Close this for a second. Oh, look at how cool everything already looks. Does anyone remember what the last user we signed in as was? It was like test something 4? Wait, what? Oh. Test1234 example.com. We signed in. Oh no. Because I think we were working on resetting passwords, so I think. Oh no, I don't know what the password is. Okay. Can I just do. Just reset it. User.password equals. Great, okay, let's try that then. Yes, amazing. So then we can hopefully go to this one. No. Okay, can they do the other one? There's like an other org or something. Yes, amazing. And there's our button. Oh my god, we have a button. Everything looks amazing. Look at this. So good. Okay, so now we want the button to do something. We actually want the button to be a link, don't we? Pick buttons, but I actually just want it to look like a button. Link. I want it to look like a button, but be a link. Is there a link button? Because a button, is it a button under the hood? Like an actual button? Yeah, it is. I don't want that. I just want it to look like one. Oh, but wait, can I just add a link and then put a class of button on it? Have a component. I can build my own component that does that. Well, I could just do this one. I've got a link here. So if I now go in and edit this HTML, so exciting. Oops. Ah, look at that. Like we've got our. So this is like my favorite hybrid. So we know that we get our utility stuff as well because we've included that. So within here, we can do whoops. We can do margin right 2, and then that can be bumped. So that can be 4, and that's a kind of our Tailwind-esque stuff. So in Primer CSS, we're getting a mix of utility classes along with a library of pre-made components. So now we have buttons, and this still performs the same task. Oh, cool. I've uploaded a big image there. And we also have a button that would submit. Okay. So this does still have the sort of the same flaw, which isn't a flaw, the same thing as we were talking about with Tailwind, which is that you still need to learn the kind of API or learn the class names and the component library for the one you've picked. So you have to take that on. That's fine. You're committing to that when you take the library on. But I like the idea of the view component coming with the CSS. So that, like, button is going to be button. And so you're not having to learn, I guess, the sheer volume and breadth of utility classes is probably my main thought about it. But that's a real personal taste thing, I think. I bet some people really love learning that extra API, whereas I would rather just have my own components that had their own CSS that I could manage, I guess. Okay, cool. So do we have a link button? Was that an option? I didn't see one. So is there any way to make a link that is a button that is not? So that's what I would find interesting, that crossover. So here, what we've actually done here. So here we have a button component, which creates an HTML button output, basically. Like that's that has a semantic value to the page. So if that was wrapped in a form, by default, it would become the submit action for the form that it was in. That is not the same as an A. I'm trying to just make this a bit bigger here so it's more visible on the stream. That's not the same as the A tag, but we want them to look the same. So I've then added btn. So I am taking the CSS class out of the component and using it elsewhere for my own needs. My own needs. Is that cool? Like, I'm assuming that we're saying we trust everything in CSS. We're just going to say that we just trust this. Yeah, it's got stuff in here. Like there's like a JSON representation of the data. So like you could check for deprecations, all of that stuff, I guess. So we could have a component called link button or link that looks like button or something like that. But we could have that component ourselves. That component could be stored in ours here, and it could just be, link. It could be the Rails link to. You pass in a string, for example, that's the label, and then a hash of options, which is the hash of options I could go to link to. But it could actually just then put in class button, and then you could pass in a bunch of other CSS classes if you wanted to. And that could be your button component, link button component. Or you could say, don't ever do that. You could say, if it don't exist in here, don't do it. And at that point, it's a case of learning this framework well enough. Link styles anchor, tags with default blue styling, not with text. So there might well be a version of this that does exactly what I'm talking about, but it's just an example anyway. Time is one. That's interesting that you need a... What does local time component do? Oh, I want to actually go and learn this now. Oh, does it... Well, you're passing in your own formatting options. So I was wondering if it would give you consistent formatting for the date, but you can pass that in, so it's not consistent. Interesting. Okay, markdown. Wait, what's happened here? Oh, is that just a zooming thing? Okay. Use markdown to write markdown content. Does it perform the markdown in the component? What? No, it doesn't. Wait, what? What are you passing it? You're just passing it HTML? Render program markdown new. Here's a bunch of HTML. Wouldn't you pass it markdown? So Oli confused by that. Not quite sure. I mean, HTML is standard. Markdown, like you can render markdown in. Oh, this is going to be fun to find out, to learn a bunch of these stuff. So this is kind of fun. I want to see what this thing is actually doing. Tag, default tags, system arguments, system. Markdown as body. God, I want to play with all of these now. I've got to go out in a minute. Okay, so pop over. What's this one do? Oh, okay, cool. Activity. So that's the content within the popover. And how do you trigger the popover? Represent element to render the popover as use relative property. Okay, so we haven't got any examples of the kind of. Yeah, okay, so it's sort of having to join a few dots yourself here, whereas something like Bootstrap used to give you like the full example of the interactive version of that, which is fine. It's a blank slate component. Oh, like an empty state? Okay, cool. Get loading spinner. See visual image. Okay. Is visual image one of these? No. What's visual image? Always finding meaningful alt tag. Parameter image. Okay, I'm just skimming through these now. Okay, amazing. I'm going to wrap it up because we've covered a huge amount of ground with just installing other people's code and getting really far, but that's really good. So I guess next week we will look to actually implement some of these, which will be pretty fun. Let's see what we can, if we can swap out stuff we've already got. Like we might be able to rebuild our navigation using the flex component potentially, because we've already used a bunch of flex CSS ourselves, although it's pretty bespoke. So let's see if that's helpful. And build out a UI. Very exciting. And also personalize this framework. So what we really want to do is get in there and work out how to system argument. So how to actually really... Sorry, I'm reading this while I'm talking. I want to work out how to get in there and really style this ourselves, because we might want to change the font and some of the colors and things like that. We don't want it to look like GitHub, because that's the whole point. You can just give it a bunch of data, settings, config, and make it look like our own site. All right, amazing. Hopefully that was useful for people. And he has tipped £5. Thanks for streaming. Oh wow. Wait, does that go to me? I don't know what's happened there. An hour ago. I don't know what that is, but someone has tipped £5. I don't know. Someone has tipped me £5. Thank you if that's the case. But I don't know what that is. I'm not very good with Twitch stuff, so I don't really understand how any of that works. But I'm going to go take a look at that afterwards and maybe buy some cake with it. All right, have wonderful weeks, everybody. So like I said, Tuesday, hopefully at 6 p.m. Sam, you can take a look. Oh, hang on. Let me jump back. I'm just going to do a wrap up here. I'm going to do a wrap up. So Sam, I don't know how to pronounce his surname. Neter. Neta, not sure. So Sam is streaming every day at between 5 and 7 a.m. UK time. And he is building a site for people who want to look at live streams of UK basketball. And he is just not jumping around. He's just getting on in the morning and coding for, like you can see here, 35 minutes, 20 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever time he's got. And he's just trying to move his site forward. And so I reached out to him a couple of weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think, when I had COVID. And we paired together just offline, just saying hello, fixing a couple of issues that he had. And I said, oh, it would be great to pair maybe on the stream so people can check it out, can ask him questions or me questions about what he wants to do. And go check him out if you are already a Rails engineer. Go take a look if you're interested in learning, follow along with his learning journey, and make sure to support new people learning Rails and getting into it, and helping each other out and doing fun stuff. So Tuesday, 6 p.m. UK time, hopefully we're going to do some live pairing. Not 100% sure what we're going to cover yet, but I think it's going to be to do with his views, but we'll take a look at that. Amazing. That's Tuesday. If you can't come to that, then come to next Sunday, 10:30 a.m. UK time. I will be here as usual, and we will style the shit out of some primer ViewComponent stuff. It's going to be exciting. All right, have a wonderful week, and I will see you all next week. Thanks a lot.